Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Felicia from Sweet Georgia and also the School of Sweet Georgia. This is our live office hours that we do for the School of Sweet Georgia every month. This is the first month that we're doing it of this year. Welcome. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy Lunar New Year to everybody who is celebrating. Really excited to see you guys again. It has been a little bit of time. It's been about 2 months since we last met. And so today is going to be a little bit of a possibly a longer session just because I have so many things to share with you. There's so many good things going on behind the scenes and wanted to share all of those things with you guys today. Thanks so much for being here. I see lots of people in the chat. I see Kathy and Nina and Wheezy and Bridget and Greta and Brenda and Andrea, Anne, and fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Yeah, hoping for a really good chat today. This is the start of the year, as you know, and what we do is every month we come here on the last Thursday of every month, and we do a session kind of talking about what's going on behind the scenes with the school, what are we working on, what have we just released, what have we been updating, and all of these kinds of things, and what do we have coming. And then the biggest part of the show, the biggest part of these sessions is talking about the things that you have made and things that you have shared inside the school forums in sort of like the share your win section and all that kind of thing. And really excited to see what you guys have made. That is the highlight of these sessions. So yeah, lots and lots of things to share with you guys today. If you can't stay for the entire session, I totally understand. And we record all of these sessions. Wait, I'm just double checking I'm recording. Yes, we are recording all of these sessions and they will be archived inside the school so that you can access them anytime and all that kind of thing. So fantastic. Let us dive into what is going on today. So I have here my little agenda of the day. We sort of try to follow a similar format every time we do these so that you know sort of what's going on. So we have sort of top of mind, what is going on right now, what is happening in and around the studio and things like that. We have the latest updates, so that might include latest courses coming out, latest patterns, maybe latest workshops, those kinds of things. Our upcoming events, we'll look at the calendar, and then we'll talk about the community a little bit as well. I always have a little spot for Q&A in case anybody has questions that come up during the call. If you want to ask anything, this is supposed to be live office hours, so we're supposed to, provide some guidance and help. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them as well. And then we have a big sort of share your win section at the end that we're going to share all the projects and things like that that you guys have been working on for the past 2 months. So let's get into that today. So first thing is what is top of mind. And obviously what is top of mind is that it is the start of the new year. At the start of the new year, everybody's thinking about what am I going to make this year? What am I going to learn this year? What am I going to work on? And so one of the things that we always try to do is we try to provide some guidance around all of this because it's one thing to, want to knit and spin all of the yarn that you're going to knit or then dye the fiber or there's so many things that we could be doing with our crafts. And some of it is trying to figure out how much is doable, how much is achievable, what can we do, what would we really like to do. Sometimes it's about like, what is easy to do? What can I just do and accomplish? And then other times it's thinking about what is the big, massive project that I really dream about wanting to do, but then not actually, putting time towards breaking that down and making that an achievable project. So it might be small projects, it might be huge projects, whatever it is. We have a few tools inside the School of Sweet Georgia that you can find that might help you with that entire sort of process of trying to figure out what to make and how to get that done. And so we have the tools here I've listed. One of them is called the Multi-Craft Tool Maker, and that one is really about addressing the unique challenges that we have as people who like to who like to do multiple crafts. So if you like to dye your own fiber, then you want to fiber prep it and make it into Rolex, and then you want to spin it, and then you want to knit it or crochet it or weave it, all of these things that you want to do, how do you manage and juggle your time, your energy, your resources, your focus, your attention, all of that kind of stuff? How do you juggle all of that in order to do the things that you want to do? And so that's the Multi-Craft Tool Maker. The Epic Cloth is more about like if you want to make a massive project this year, like a really big, challenging, ambitious, sort of big, hairy, audacious goal kind of project, how do you break that down into smaller steps and then work through that the whole year to be able to say that you have accomplished something massive at the end of the year? So that's for people who would like to do that. We have another course that was made by Tabitha Hedrick called Plan Your Make 9. And so this is very much about, like, if you have a grid, like we talked about these Instagram grids, 9x9, 3x3 grids, 9 projects. And so the 9 projects that you think that you might like to accomplish over the course of the year. That's one way of thinking about it. And this is especially helpful for people who do like multiple crafts, because you could take those 9 different squares and then put different crafts into them, put different projects into them, break them up like month by month, or each one takes a month and a half, or whatever it does. There's lots of different ways to do that. And then I did also a Taking Back Friday live about time blocking and about, like, looking at your ideal week, looking at how much time you have to spend, and then breaking out chunks of your schedule and dedicating that time to making things, and dedicating that time and making sure that that time is precious and guarded and special, and that nothing can interfere with that time. So it's almost like being really accountable to yourself. Like if you were to, make an appointment with someone or have a coffee date with someone or whatever it is, that you've made sort of like a commitment to somebody to show up for something. Sometimes when we say, oh, I'm going to spend this hour doing this for myself, I'm going to spend that time with my loom, or I'm going to spend that time with my wheel. And then that time just kind of goes by and you miss it and you pass it. And then you haven't kept that commitment to your own craft. And so some of it is like really about, stopping to say that that time is actually really, really important. And I made a commitment to show up for that time to do this thing. And I'm going to take that time and I'm going to do that. So that's kind of like what that Taking Back Friday was about. And you can check that out. And then this last one is a Taking Back Friday where I did talk about how I plan all my projects and keep track of it in this sort of web-based software that we use for the studio, and it's called ClickUp. It's a great software program. We put everything in it, and it's really, really helpful to keep track of the things that you happen to be working on. There's lots of different ways to keep track of and document what you're working on. We talk about that a lot inside of the school, documentation, but this is just one of the things that you could check out if you have not yet checked out. And so I see that there's a couple people who are saying that this is my first time here. Robin, welcome. Really excited that you could be here today. Yeah, thank you. So, what else do I think about as I am planning for my year? And so, this is something that I talked about last year as well. And I thought that it worked really, really well last year. And so, that's part of the reason why I'm going through this process again and looking at this technique again. And so, basically, last year I was reading that book, Grit, by Angela Duckworth. And it's a great book. It's it's about resilience, and I think that there's an interesting aspect to that book, and it's about passion and making sure that passion is not this like one big explosive flame of excitement, but passion is like this long burning love and enjoyment of something. And how do you nurture this long time passion that you have for something? And she's sort of written about it in terms of these 3 different stages of your passion. The first one is that spark. It's that, oh, it's so exciting. Oh, I want to learn everything about this. I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try that. And so there's this phase of discovering something that's really, really exciting to you. And then the next phase of that is kind of developing and practicing and testing and seeing, like, if I do this, what do I get? If I try this, what do I get? If I try this, what do I get? And there's a kind of like a phase of experimentation, but like practicing what you're working on. And then finally, there's another stage, which is about deepening your experience of that thing that you're in love with. So whatever it is that you're passionate about, if you want to develop mastery, if you want to just become super, super masterful at that one particular thing, what do you need to do? And so looking at all the different crafts that you might be involved in, maybe you've just joined the school over the holidays, or you've just joined in the new year, and you're like, this year, I want to learn how to spin. And if you want to learn how to spin and you're just discovering that for the very first time, then maybe, yeah, You want to try, what does wool feel like in your hands? What does silk feel like in your hands? What does Angeline, if I add a little bit of sparkle, what does that feel like? If I play with a little bit of cotton, what does that feel like? What do wool neps feel like? Like all of this stuff is playing and trying to figure out, like, how does all this stuff work? What do I like best? Which part of spinning do I want to spend more time exploring? And then as you get into that more, then you spend more time practicing one type of thing. So I know that from observation, just like watching a lot of people come into the school as new spinners and learning different things, you might come in and have never touched fiber before, never touched a wheel before, or never touched a spindle before, and you can just get started. Like, how does it feel to draft out a little bit of wool? What should I use to add twist? Maybe I try a drop spindle. Maybe I try a supported spindle. What do I like better? And then I've seen people just go deep dive into, like, straight on into supported spindles and then spend a year working on that, or spend a year deep diving into working with their e-spinner and just really working on that. So it's kind of like a really fun place to be, just a place to explore and try different things. So we have lots and lots of resources and support for anybody who's kind of just starting out and wanting to do all that. So that's kind of the 3 different ways that I've been looking at the crafts that I like and what I want to do as well this year. And yeah, lots of beginner spinners. It's fantastic. It's such an exciting place to be, because I feel like when you learn how to spin, I say this all the time, when you learn how to spin, you know how yarn works, it informs all the rest of your other crafts. So I feel like a lot of it starts with color, it starts with texture, it starts with fiber, starts with spinning. How do you make that yarn between your fingers? All of the control of every single kind of yarn that you want to make, whether you want to make thin yarn or thick yarn, woolly yarn, slick yarn, smooth yarn, whatever you want to make, it all comes from your hands. And from there, then everything else comes out of that yarn. Like, what kind of fabric are you going to make with that yarn? What kind of hat? What kind of sweater? What kind of everything comes from that yarn. So yeah, welcome to spinning. It's a whole fantastic world out there. So yeah, excited to hear what you guys have planned for this year. But these are some of the things that I am wanting to explore and focus on as well. This is a little bit of a continuation from last year, actually, because I was talking last year about wanting to play with and discover new weave structures. I wanted to develop more of my skill with my knitting machines and with spinning, and then also really becoming more, I don't want to use the word masterful, because that's, I don't know. I just want to really get much better at doing things like designing with color, designing, with proportions, designing. We're going to talk about this in the stripes and plaids and tartans class, but just like more designing for textiles. And so I'm really interested in that. And well, you can see that photo there is of the Silver Reed LK150 knitting machine. And I've said here, this is the year of consolidation. I don't know if you know, like yesterday was Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, and this is the year of the snake. And so what they say is, like, in the year of the snake, you can shed the skin of things past. You can shed all of the things that are not working for you and just like become this new, shiny, fresh, brilliant thing. It's a really interesting and nice way of thinking about things, like shedding all the things that have not been working for you. And so for me, I think a lot of this year is sort of trying to consolidate what I'm working on and focusing more and more and more. And that started with January 1st, New Year's Day. I always kind of clean my house on New Year's Day, but here in the attic, I moved a lot of the other knitting machines that I have, and I stored them away. I put them away. They are not like never to be used again. I'm just right now putting out one knitting machine. There's one machine, and the one machine is this LK150 machine, and this is the one machine that I am going to focus on this year to get really much better at. And so you can see here, I've put these are my sort of focuses for this year. I'm going to be doing obviously more weaving. We're doing waffle weave. I want to do more double weave. We're going to weave more twills and designing for twills. And then I'm going to be doing a lot of sectional warping stuff because I think sectional is the best. Everybody should switch to sectional. And then for spinning, we are in February. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about blending boards and fiber prep and roll eggs. And I have for many, many years been sort of like sitting in a default position of spinning. Like I always spin the same kind of yarn, and I always sit and I spin the exact same kind of fiber, the exact fiber blend. It just like everything has just become this one thing that I do when I sit and I spin. And so this year I kind of want to step out of that and then get out of my comfort zone and try some different things that I'm not necessarily very good at yet, and just practice and just try to get better at all of these things. So that is one thing. And then with knitting, I have been practicing some different knitting styles. And so if you're following our YouTube channel, I am talking a little bit about that as well. Just exploring some different ways of holding my yarn, trying to find ways that are a little bit more ergonomic and easier on your body, on your hands, all that kind of stuff. And then machine knitting, like I said, we're going to consolidate to one machine. And I have reasons for that. I'll talk about in a second as well. And then CSM knitting. I am definitely going to be playing more with my sock machine. And yeah, there's lots and lots of stuff to explore and talk about with the sock machine. So in any case, it's a lot, right? Every year I look at it and it's like, it's a lot. But this is the unique challenge of being this multi-craft tool maker. I want to make all the things. I want to make the yarn. I want to work with the yarn and make things from the yarn. This is if you are like this, you have come to the right place. And then, yes, I put on the last line, actually finishing projects. I think that that's a goal this year. With my knitting machine and with even weaving, like I spend a lot of time making samples and making swatches. And then I have all this information that can be translated into projects, but then I don't actually ever make the projects. And so I wonder why. And so this year is one of the years that I want to actually finish a bunch of things. So, like I did last year, I put all of these ideas of what I wanted to make on a board, like on the 3x3 grid that could be used for Make 9. And so this is what I've done. I have sort of distributed all of my focus ideas into these 9 squares. I identified projects that I'm going to make with each one of these different topics. And then I sort of sorted them into the stage of what I'm working on. So this first line should be about play. Everything here is about exploration, trying different things, trying new things, and just playing and having fun with your craft. And then the second one is to like develop a little bit more skill, a little bit more just getting better, practicing, testing, trying different things. And then this last one is to sort of have deliberate practice, intentionally trying to get better at all of this. And so this is sort of what I've put on my board for this year. And yeah, I encourage you guys to think about it in this sort of way as well. If you have a lot of different things that you want to make, maybe think about it like this. Now, I'm going to show you what I did last year, and I'm doing it again this year. It had, well, let me show you. So what I did last year was I took all of those 9 different focuses and I spread them across all the months of the year. And I tried to plan out what I would be doing, like basically taking each one of those topics from the previous page, right? Like say, spinning, oh no, say like uh, waffle weave on 8 shafts or whatever it is. I would take that project and then try to break it down month by month. Like, well, 1 month I have to wind the warp and dress the loom. And then the second month I'd have to weave it. And then the third month I'd have to do blah, blah, blah. And so I tried to break it down and spread it out over the months that are coming up so that I have an idea of like, are there some months that are more overloaded? Are there other months that are more quiet? And so last year I did this sort of process. And I got about halfway through the year and everything was kind of ticking along really, really nicely. And then things came up in the middle of last year that sort of happened. They were things that were unexpected opportunities, which is always great. And that really changed the trajectory of my yearly plan. So I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to do this. I'm just saying be also very flexible and be very kind and gentle with yourself about this, so that yes, yeah, if things change, that it's not the end of the world. And so, like Nicole is saying, maybe it would work better if you did this quarterly rather than for the whole year. And yes, it's true. It's probably a better idea to look at the next 3 months. How is that going to go? And then try to slot things in, and then work on it for the next 3 months. But again, part of this reason was because I wanted to make sure that I had sort of allotted time and focus for all of the 9 projects throughout the year. But yes, breaking it up and really reviewing and seeing what you're doing every 90 days is a really, really good idea. So yeah, I encourage you guys to also go through a process this year and see what you are interested in learning and how you might want to break that up. We do have places in the community forums where we talk about our learning plans and what we want to make. And so I'll show that to you guys in a little bit as well. But that is kind of what was top of mind. Now, I just want to share with you some of the latest updates. These are the things that are going on very, very shortly that hopefully you might be interested in. So part of the whole point of this section is to sort of show you some of the courses, the make-alongs that might be happening, and you might not do this particular craft, but if there's anything that sort of piques your interest, I just kind of want you to keep an open mind, open ear, and just be like, oh, I might want to do that. Oh, I might want to do that. So I'll show you some of the things that we have going on. In February, we are doing Fiber Prep February. That's not a thing. We're making it up. Fiber Prep February is a thing now. It is for us. And so part of this came about because one of our instructors, Debbie Held, she is going to be releasing her brand new book about blending boards in April, May, around there. We're doing pre-orders for her book right now on our website. But she's come out with a book about blending boards, and her whole sort of thesis is about how the blending board can be one fiber tool to rule them all. If you have a blending board, maybe you don't need a drum carder, maybe you don't need hand cards, maybe you don't need hand combs or anything like that, because your blending board can do so many things. And so Fiber Prep February is really about us doing more of a exploration into blending boards and seeing what can we do with them, how can we play with them, how can we enjoy the fiber that comes off of them. And so we've already learned from Kim McKenna and from Diana Twiss. They have shown how to use these blending boards in many of the courses that are in the school. Everything from, like running your fiber through to make a really smooth worsted fiber preparation for worsted spinning. You can make beautiful, sleek and shiny and smooth yarns by using a blending board, or you can do what we are doing here, which is basically making rollags from the blending board and making thin, light rollags, fluffy rollags, which could be spun woolen style with long draw. Lots and lots of different things that you can do. And so these are just some of the rollags that I made as I was playing with my blending board. I also learned many, many things. And we have videos coming out about this in February. We are going to talk about the 2 different blending boards that I have. I have an Ashford one and a Louette one. And I'm going to talk about those 2 different blending boards also in February. And then, yeah, just really, really excited to see what you guys are going to be making. Elena saying, I like blending boards for small projects, but never again for a giant project. Yes, I think we underestimate how much fiber goes into a project. Like when I'm making these blending board projects, the amount of fiber that I put on a blending board is maybe like 12 to 15 grams. So you do have to make a lot of rollags if you want to make even 100 grams. That's quite a bit of stuff. You might be working with 10 blending boards worth of rollags. And if you make 3 or 4 rollags off of every one, you're making almost 30, maybe 40 rollags, 30, 40, 50 rollags, something like that. So it is quite a bit of spinning. So that's only 100 grams. 100 grams can barely get you a shawl, right? So could be 100 rollags to make a shawl. Just doing the math very, very roughly. Yes, so Elena say, I could only do 2 boards or so in a day before my shoulder protested. Yeah, so it could be just about like putting less fiber on and then making smaller rollags. I did find that the first time I put fiber onto these blending boards, I packed it in because, the blending board comes with a brush, so I just assumed I should brush and like make a really compacted sort of fiber bat. But when I tried to pull that off of the blending board, it almost wouldn't come off, and then it was very stressful. So so I started to put way less fiber on my blending board, and I didn't like pack it in. I would just brush very gently just to smooth it down into the tines, but I wasn't packing anything and I wasn't brushing a lot in. And then I would make very, very loose and light roll eggs. It took a bit of practice and a bit of experimentation to figure all that out. But yeah, really, really super fun. We also have a number of videos that were where Greta is explaining how she makes roll eggs as well, because Greta is our education program coordinator for the School of Sweet Georgia. She is a hardcore spinner and fiber prep aficionado. And so she leads the fiber prep meetings that happen on Mondays in the school. And so if you want to ask anything about roll eggs and blending boards and lock pops and drum carders and hand combs and like everything, you can ask Greta. She is very, very deep in that rabbit hole right now. So yeah, if you guys want to join us for that, that's a bit of what we're doing there. I will also say that this year we have some new courses coming to the School of Sweet Georgia. We have a whole new category coming to the School of Sweet Georgia, and that is machine knitting with Barb Barone. Barb is actually she was a yarn shop owner in Alberta, and she owned a shop with her sister. And during sort of the pandemic, she started to bring in these LK150 knitting machines, and just teaching her community how to use these knitting machines to use a lot of the yarn that they have. And she had been teaching classes for the past couple of years, and reached out to us. And she came for the past 2 weeks. Greta and I and Kathy were at the studio with Barb filming all of these classes. We filmed actually 5 classes in machine knitting that are going to be coming out in the School of Sweet Georgia over the next year or so. And so before the end of this year, we're hoping to have 3 courses coming out before the end of this year. But yes, this is what we're going to be working on. We are going to be working on this particular machine, specifically just this machine. It's the Silver Reed LK150. We are bringing them in for Sweet Georgia. So if you go on our website, shop.sweetgeorgiayarns.com, we have this machine available for pre-order right now, and we're putting together an order, and then we're going to kind of like deliver all these machines to everybody. But we're really excited about going down this rabbit hole as well, because I think that what we have found and what we've learned and heard from many of the members in the school is that we have a lot of yarn. We have made a lot of yarn, especially if we're spinning. We have made a lot of yarn. And so what are we going to do with all this yarn? One of the things that you can do is you can definitely weave, because weaving uses more yarn than you can imagine. And also machine knitting. I think that machine knitting is amazing because you can experiment with so many different things, and you can experiment more quickly than you can hand knit. So the faster you can knit your yarn up into a finished object, the faster you can get to that moment where you feel the fabric, feel how that yarn transformed into cloth. That informs your understanding of what that yarn is, maybe what the tension is, maybe how you want to change how you spun that yarn in the first place, maybe as far as how you wanted to fiber prep that fiber for spinning it. Like maybe you say, oh, I spun that using painted top. Next time I want to spin using carded bats or something like that. All of those decisions, every decision along the way can change the yarn and how it's transformed into cloth. But you won't know until it becomes cloth. Which is why I think that machine knitting is so amazing, because it gives you that information about the fabric that can be made. And so, yes, this is just a couple of snapshots from the courses that we were filming these past 2 weeks. And there's a picture of Barb. She is a fabulous teacher. Yes, Greta is saying that. She is a very, very encouraging, warm instructor. And so we are really, really excited to bring her courses to you. So there are 5 classes, like I mentioned. And the first one is going to be about sort of the basics of how to set up your machine. How do all the parts work? What are all the parts called? And what do they do? And then there's going to be a project as part of that class called the bias shawl. I'll show you that in a second here. And then she's also prepared a troubleshooting class. So in case you have any problems with the machine, something jams, what do you do? All of that kind of stuff. How do you maintain your machine? That's all in there. And then there's going to be one on how to knit a hat on your machine. Then there's going to be one on how to knit a lace shawl, like how to do increases and decreases and create eyelets and things like that in your work. And then we filmed an entire course on how to knit a sock on this flatbed knitting machine. And so it's a very ingenious way of knitting a sock. I don't have the sample of the sock with me, but yes, it's going to be great. So I'll just show you a couple of little projects that we have from here. So this is the most amazing, beautiful, gorgeous piece. We're going to show this many, many times because it's so pretty. But this is one of the pieces that's come off of the machine. And you can almost hopefully see the texture of this. It's got a little bit of fuzz in it because this is the mohair silk, sort of the silk mist yarn that we have. It's like a fuzzy lace weight yarn. And then it's held together with the BFL and silk fine. Double checking that that's right. Yes. Trifecta fine and silk mist held together. And it just feels amazing. The drape on this amazing, and the warmth of this is amazing. And so, yeah, we're going to make a whole bunch of these, but this basically came off of the machine. And so you can see that she has done a bunch of tension swatches. And so she'll explain how we make the swatches. There's another swatch showing sort of that bias technique. You sort of increase on one side and decrease on or slip on the other side. And then we have another one here. This one has some eyelets in it as well. So this is like a little scarf project, also knit on the bias. These are great projects if you happen to have variegated yarn at home, if you have dyed yarn as part of like learning how to dye yarn in the school, or maybe you have a bunch of sock yarn that's all variegated sock yarn. This is all a really great way of using that yarn because the colors are not going to be straight like horizontal pooling on that. You're going to have this bias, and so you have everything sort of pooling on a diagonal, which makes a really, really much more interesting look. And then you can have some eyelets in there. And again, this texture of this is absolutely amazing. I wish that you guys could feel this, but yeah, this is so beautiful. But in any case, this is one of the projects that's come out of that. That was the second project. And then we have hats. So these hats were all made on the LK150 knitting machine as well. And so Barb teaches you how to cast on at the bottom, how to work this 2x2 ribbing, and then how to knit the hat, how to do the decreases, multiple different ways of doing the decreases as well. So this is all coming as well. There's ones here where she's teaching how to do stripes, how to change colors on your machines, and then how to weave in your ends automatically. There's just so many ways that you can like be really, really quick and easy with managing your yarn like this. So I highly encourage you guys to check out this machine knitting. If you I have fallen down that machine knitting rabbit hole and I love it. It's really, really great. And I just kind of want to invite you guys all in to join me in that sort of rabbit hole. So that is all very exciting, and that is all coming before the end of this year. I think that Greta said August, around August, maybe September, we'll have that first class come out. And yes, excited to share that with you all. So that is coming later this year. Now, let's quickly talk about what's coming in a couple weeks. Actually, very, very soon. Next month, we have this course that's coming out. And so this is a course that I put together called Weaving Stripes, Plaids, and Tartans. And I am very, very excited about this class. This is really looking at one of the things that I wanted to share a long, long time ago, and that's kind of like the design principles when it comes to making fabric, making a cloth project, making anything. You know, like how do you design stripes in a project, and how do you put together, looking at the shape and the size, the proportions, the of all of those stripes. how can you change things, and what do those changes sort of communicate to the person who's going to be looking at that project? So you can have things that are very, very subtle and very mellow looking, but you could also have stripes that are very bold and very, if you think about awning stripes, or you think about like, yeah, beachside umbrellas, big, thick stripes, that kind of thing, versus very fine pinstripes. Like, what do all those different stripes mean, and how can you make that? Yes. And so, yes, looking forward to getting back into weaving. Yes, I'm really excited about that. So you can see here what I was teaching in the class is basically using some cards here. These cards are basically cut from mat board. So mat board is kind of like the board that you would use for framing photos. And so it's like a nice thick cardboard, and then you just wind your yarn around that to create different stripes. And this also gives you stripe information, also might give you some set information, like how densely to pack all of your warp ends. So that's a little bit of information there. And then I wove this little sample here that came out of that project. Let's see, I'll show you guys some stuff here. So that is the sample that I first wove and I cut off to make sure that I was beading correctly so that I could get everything square. And then I have a couple projects here. So these are not fully like pressed and trimmed and finished. You can see all of my color changes here, all of my weft color changes. But this one is the first scarf. So I basically wove that color block 7 times to create that. And I think it works really nice. So that is the first scarf that came off of the warp. So this is the first one. And then so the idea being that when you take your warp stripe pattern and you also weave it in the weft picks, and you weave it sort of trompus writ, basically whatever is written in the warp you would do in the weft, then you come up with this kind of a pattern, right? So kind of like a tartan style pattern. And then here, if you change up the colors, plaid is basically anything where you have intersecting blocks of color. So you have stripes in the warp and stripes in the weft, and they will produce a sort of plaid. And so I just changed up the colors and created something really quite different. The colors are significantly different. I love these colors. I don't know why. They remind me of like really vintage CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I don't know why. I think that these were the colors of the CBC a long time ago. So that is a really nice combination. I really, really like that. And then so I did that for 2 blocks here. And then for the rest of this, I was experimenting with just using one weft color to create what would effectively be vertical stripes, right? So if you only wove your entire scarf with just one color, you would get just a striped scarf. And so these were all the different things that you could make on this one warp. And so I put in a couple of different weft colors so that I could experiment with what it would look like if I were to weave an entire scarf with just one weft color. So yeah, I liked seeing how, the colors overlap and how they blend. We talk a lot about optical mixing, especially in weaving, but that is where that all came from. So yes. And I just found that tartan, like the history of tartans and how they came about, and uh, yeah, all of that history part was actually really, really interesting. So I hope that you guys have a look at that course that comes out. It's coming out at the beginning of February, I believe, and hoping that that will be really interesting to everybody. So that is that one. I have, let me see here. No, I have this. I have another photo for you on the loom. And yeah, again, this is just like, it's very simple. It's 2-2 twill. You can see these diagonals. The goal is to get the diagonals to be 45-degree angles. And you just kind of practice a lot of 2x2 twill. So there's a lot of weaving, and just really practice getting consistent with your beat, consistent with throwing the shuttle. There's a lot of practice involved. So I think it's actually a great way to just get much better at weaving. And then we do have, yes, like like you guys are mentioning, there is going to be a 2 heddle, 2/1 twill class, no pickup sticks, and that's coming for rigid heddle also very, very soon. Now, wanted to share with you guys that there was also, I think we talked about this in November, maybe it got missed, but we did recently update the pattern that we had from, I think it might have been even like one of the first patterns we ever had in the school, and it was called Radiant Towels. And the towel project turned out very, very small. They were more like fingertip towels, like yeah, little hand towels. And so we wanted to make bigger versions of that. And so we rewrote the pattern and re-wove it and made new samples. And these ones are called Radiant Kitchen Towels because they are much bigger. But basically the idea is the same. Again, it's an exploration of optical color mixing. So we have like a warp that we put on the loom that's a big, big, wide warp that has all of these different color changes across the warp. And then we weave each towel with a different color. And so when you weave it with a different color, then different color blending comes out. Oh yes, this one is the one that the weaver wove with all different colors in the weft. So she did weft stripes for this one. But there's lots of different things that you can do, and it's just really about playing with color. This is all plain weave, so you could weave this on your rigid heddle loom if you wanted to. It is set at 18 ends per inch, I believe. That's usually what we do for plain weave with 8/2 cotton. And you could also weave it at 20 ends per inch. It might be like a little bit of a firmer fabric. So if you can do that on your rigid heddle loom, you can do this. And yeah, excited for these. So that pattern has been updated. And then we also have another pattern that was updated here, and that is the color field scarf or shawl. It is also done on a rigid heddle loom. Greta wove this sample actually, and she took all the photos. Bridget took these photos because Greta's in the photo, but Greta took a lot of photos of the work in progress, and so you can find that on our website as well. But we have this pattern has also been updated with new colors, and so these colors are all new colors from our fall sort of collection as well. So excited to see all of that working up very nicely. Now, let's just quickly look at the calendar. So our calendar for February that's coming up, we have always these meetups that happen on Mondays. So twice a month, you can see basically at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time with Robin, there is a Crafternoon meetup on Zoom. And so they meet, so it'll be February the 3rd and then February the 17th in the morning. And then there is a weaving meetup that happens on the second Monday of the month in the evening. It happens at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then there's a fiber prep meeting at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on the fourth Monday of every month. And so these meetings are available for our SOS members. And so I'll show you a little bit more about those in a second. And then on the Monday, we have to move this multi-craftual meetup around a little bit because it depends on when federal holidays land. Sometimes it's the third Monday of every month, but sometimes we have to move it. And so in February, because the 17th is Family Day here in Canada, we have moved the multi-craftual meetup to the 3rd, Monday the 3rd. And so that is also in the evening, 5 p.m. The multi-craftual meetup is held on Zoom. It is not recorded, and anybody can come. Anybody from the community can come. Anybody who's outside of the school can come. If you want to invite a friend to come and join you inside the multi-craftual meetup, I highly recommend anybody. You guys can all invite your friends to come for that. And it's basically just, yeah, it's open chat and talk about whatever you happen to be making and all the different crafts and things like that. We also have a couple of community-led meetups that happen on Wednesdays, and these are around tapestry weaving. And so you can jump into the calendar and then find out the details of these ones, but it looks like those are also 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we have these community-led co-working sessions at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Fridays. And so the purple ones basically are quiet co-working sessions where all the people can come onto the call. It's held on Zoom. You come onto the call, and then after about 5 minutes of saying hello and things like that, everybody puts their themselves on mute, and then you just continue to work away at your project for the next hour silently. And so if you have to, finish ends, or you have to graft something, or you have to like make twisted fringe, or whatever you happen to be working on, you can bring it during that time to sort of work alongside all these other people who are also working on their projects silently. And we found that that sort of quiet co-working session actually helps people become super, super productive with their work. Just the mere fact that someone else is sitting there, even if they're not saying anything, just the mere fact that they're sitting there, not looking at you or anything, they're just sitting there, makes you feel more compelled to do the work that's in front of you as well. And so, a lot of things that you might feel like as a chore, you don't want to do it, you want to get around to it, finishing projects, all of that kind of stuff, that's the perfect thing to bring to these sessions. So I highly encourage you guys to join in on those as well if you need like a little bit of a motivation to get going with stuff. I also put on the calendar our Taking Back Friday live stream that happens on the second Friday of every month. And I did forget to put our live office hours, which happens on the last Thursday of every month. And that goes there. So that's basically our calendar. You can find that if you go into the community section of the school. Now, one of the things that we had talked about before was whether or not we should continue to sort of like record and post the archives of our fiber prep and our weaving meetups. And we thought, oh, we're not sure if it's necessary, but then we did hear from members that you do like having these archived meetings, like these recorded meetings, so that you can go back and reference them later on, or if you missed it, you didn't get to go to one of these meetings, that you can still listen in on what happened. And so what we decided to do is that we moved our weaving meeting and the fiber prep meeting to Google Meet. So it's no longer on Zoom. Here, let me show you here. So this is our weaving meeting. If you go to this link here, schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/topic focused meetups, it will give you the link to get into the Google Meet meeting. And we're using Google Meet because we have, we're taking advantage of the AI that's built into there that will help transcribe and summarize all of the meeting notes. And so we're recording those meetings as well and having those available for you guys. So let me just very quickly show you the recent meeting that happened for fiber prep. So we are archiving them here on the school. You would find them under community and then under meeting recordings. And so this is where all of the meeting recordings are archived. And so this is the latest one. This is the fiber prep meeting that is hosted by Greta. This was just hosted this past week. And so we have it available as a post, and all of the summary here, all of the details of the meeting, all of the notes, all of this was actually generated by Google Gemini. And so it was just keeping notes of everything that happened. And then the actual meeting recording is here. And so if you need to, you can just come and watch this. So it also has a transcript that comes with that as well. So if you want, all of that is available for you. And so we're going to continue to do that for the upcoming meetings for the SOS fiber prep meeting and for the weaving meeting. We are going to do this. There we go. Okay, so yes, so the meeting that we have coming up is weaving meeting February 10th. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about like design ideas and things that I've noticed sort of in the wild. And we can talk about some design thoughts. Yeah, really looking forward to that. And then getting more projects up on the loom. Next one is the fiber prep meeting with Greta. So this is February 24th is going to be her meeting. And again, that's going to be recorded and posted up on the website as well. So then talking about community, I just want to, again, sort of point you in the direction of where the community is if you have not yet seen it. And so this is where, let me go back to this and I can show you under community. if we go to community forums, this is where you find the discussion that happens inside the school. And so let's see. There you go. It's coming. So this is our community forums. And so we have a number of topics here. You can see when the upcoming events are coming up. And here is where I encourage you to check out all of the learning plans. So if you have any plans for what you're going to be working on this year, I do encourage you guys to jump in here and add your learning plan in here. I have my first post, it's a pinned post, and you can see a little bit about my thoughts about how to prepare this learning plan. You can see sort of my learning plan. There's a link to a learning plan there. And then you can see all of these other learning plans that everyone has written about what they plan to do as well. So it is a great place to explore for ideas and then to encourage other people as well. One of the things that I'll share with you a little bit more in the next section when we talk about sharing your wins is also looking at how people are using the gallery function of this community. So you can see lots of photos that people have been posting about things that they've been making. So excited for all of that. Down here, you'll find all of the conversations about the different courses that are inside the school. So if you have been like learning about e-spinners, you can come here, and then there's whole conversations about e-spinners that happen in here as well. So that is one part of it. The next thing that I wanted to share with you guys also is that we have a public Discord channel as well. We have a public Discord server that you can join. And so when you join that, if you are an SOS member, you can connect your SOS account with your Discord account. And so I'll show you here. If you go to your dashboard, so if you're on your page and then you come to the dashboard, you scroll all the way down to the bottom of your dashboard, and you will see a section here where it says join us on Discord, and there will be a button here, and then you can connect your Discord account with your SOS account, and it basically assigns you this role called SOS member, and then your name will be highlighted in orange everywhere throughout Discord, and then that helps sort of identify other members inside Discord, and yeah, you guys can meet each other and connect with each other there, because the Discord chat really is very different from the community forums kind of chat. Just the way that people communicate is different, so it all depends on what your preference is. So that is the Discord channel, and so I encourage you guys to check that out as well. Now, let me see here. I'm going here and I'm going here. Okay. So now let's talk about the things that you guys have been making for the past 2 months. It's actually, there was a lot of things to go through. So I'm showing you, I can't show you everything that was posted in the past 2 months because it was lots. But yeah, I just wanted to share some really, really great things that I saw coming out. And so one of them is this beautiful, beautiful, incredible dyed color wheel. And so this one is dyed by Jane, and she documented a little bit about the different kinds of dyes that she was using. She was combining Saberset dyes, which is also called Lanicet. And so those dyes, combining them a little bit with the ProChem washed fast acid dyes, and they do mix and combine really beautifully. This is a beautiful color wheel. And then you can see how easy it would be to like pick out, oh, you know, I really like this color, and then be able to reproduce that, or I like this color and be able to reproduce that. So that is really, really lovely. And we always say that the dyeing courses, the dyeing intentional color class, was basically the second class to ever have been made for the school. And so a lot of the school came from the idea of being able to dye your own colors, to be able to create your own colors, and really, really understand how colors work and interact together. And then that kind of informs all of the other content that we make. A lot of it is very, very color focused. And so if you have not yet learned how to dye or tried it this year, I do encourage you guys to take a look at that as a possible idea. So thank you for sharing that, Jane. And then this one is Caitlin doing her first ever dye bath. And so you can see in here, she has put her hand spun into this dye bath and then just added dyes. And these ones will dye in more of like a low water immersion method. And so, you know, some sections will get more purple, some sections will get more yellow, all of that kind of thing. But she put it up into a gallery in the community area. And so she said, I did the scary thing. I dyed my handspun in the name of science and my curiosity. So I encourage you guys to give this a try. It looks like she was dyeing this perhaps outside on a gas grill here, maybe a barbecue. I'm not quite sure what kind of cooker that is, but it's a stainless steel tray, and then just, you know, put your water inside, put your yarn inside, put your dyes in, and then add your acid, whether that's citric acid or even vinegar. White vinegar works as well. And you can just learn about all of those things. Elena's asking, just had a thought, a question. Do any of the dyeing courses cover dyeing over naturally colored fibers, grays and browns? Absolutely. You can use natural colored fibers with any of these dyes, whether it's the natural dyes or the acid dyes that we've used here. And they make really, really, really beautiful colors. Just the natural, like heathered browns or grays of a wool will provide like an undertone for the other colors that go on top of that. So you can make really just earthy, warm, beautiful colors just because it starts with a base undertone that's a little bit more more rich and has more depth to it already. Definitely give that a try. I'm putting this here because this is by Wheezy. And so Wheezy has been joining many of our meetings and things like that. You will see them there. And I have here the Flax Light sweater that was made for the little cousin, my little cousin Colette, and then use the numbers from the Flax Light without the garter stitch detail on the side, which it's kind of genius. Never occurred to me that I could just omit the garter stitch on the side of the flax sweater, but this sweater turned out super, super cute. And the gallery, the whole point of the gallery is like everything that Wheezy makes in 2025. And so that is a great way to use the calendar, sort of the gallery function, and just kind of like keep track of all the projects that you've made and just post everything, and just you can see how many things have you actually made in 2025. I think I don't really keep a lot of good notes about what I make, and so this is a good place to keep them if you need some place to put your notes. So congratulations, this is already, so it's not even the end of January, and I think Wheezy had like 2 sweaters in there already and some other projects. So yeah, excited to see how this all turns out. This one is Margaret. Margaret came to our holiday meetup, I believe, in December, and was talking about the CSM that she was just acquiring. And she had gone to a crank in and didn't own a machine yet, and went to this crank in and then learned how to make these CSM gnomes from somebody else who was there, and then got really into this, and then got a machine and has made a whole bunch of gnomes, and they are so, so cute. So I had to share these because I know it's Christmas and I know it's past now, but they were super, super cute. And so Margaret made a whole gallery of how she made these, and then she's written a blog post about these as well, about these little CSM gnomes. And I think that the gnome trend inspired many people, because then I also saw that Pearl made some gnomes. So Pearl hand knitted these gnomes, and they are so cute. This one with the glasses and the hood and the braids, just so adorable. But Pearl was using up leftover Tough Love sock yarn that she had. She had like scraps of leftover Tough Love sock from other projects, and so that's what she used to make these super, super cute gnomes. So I wanted to share those with you because the holidays and we didn't do the December live office hours. And now you can see that some of the leftover yarn came from these projects that Pearl was working on. So Pearl also used these mini skeins of Tough Love sock to make the kaleidoscope scarf. That was our Winterful Weave Along project this year. So it was a log cabin scarf that was woven on 4 shafts. Or 2 shafts. It could have been woven on rigid heddle as well. And then it was made with all these mini skeins. And then Pearl also made the wraps per inch hat, the WPI hat, that was designed by Rachel Smith. also available in the school. So the WPI hat was made with handspun, originally designed to be written for handspun. But the whole idea is like trying to figure out how many wraps per inch can you get with your yarn. And then using that wraps per inch measurement, then it determines what the gauge is going to be, what your starting needle size might be. And so you can use all of that information to get started with making a hat. And so Pearl used the WPI chart, the wraps per inch chart, to figure out what to do with the tough love sock in order to make this hat. So that is really, really great to see all the tough love being used up, like every bit of it being used up in all of these ways. So thanks for sharing all of those, Pearl. Also wanted to share, because we were talking about the kaleidoscope scarf, that Cindy took this kaleidoscope project, the log cabin design and everything like that, and then kind of riffed on it, expanded it out, made it bigger, made each design block bigger, and then also changed the yarn from sort of sock yarn or fingering weight knitting yarn, changed it and wove it with 8-2 cotton to then make towels. And so this is woven on, this is a Leclerc Dorothy table loom. So it's a 4-shaft table loom. And so Cindy is working on that and has woven a whole bunch of towels with the inspired by that kaleidoscope idea. Yes, it's fantastic. So that was wonderful. I believe Cindy was weaving on this during our weaving meeting last time. And then we had talked also with Nancy. Nancy Moore was working on her crackle samples when we last had a weaving meeting. And yeah, it was really, really lovely to hear Nancy talk about how her loom was moved into her bedroom to make it more accessible so that she could get to her loom a little bit more easily, and then finished this crackle sampler. It looks so nice. The colors, these color blocks turned out so fun and so great. I'm not sure what yarn you used, Nancy, but I just love all of the distinct color sections that come out. Even though these are all on one warp, but just the way that the blocks are threaded, you can see just very clearly these are all completely different colors. It's amazing. Like, just think about what you could do if you could create, like, pinpoint where all you want all those color blocks to be. Yeah, and so this is all woven with Crackle, and this is a course that came out last year. So thank you for sharing that. And then, since we are still on weaving and weaving with blocks, this one was Catherine Steely. Catherine had been working on this overshot scarf, or table runner, sorry, table runner, and finished this beautiful table runner. I really do like sort of the monochromatic look to it. It's kind of like pink on pink, a slightly lighter pink and a slightly darker pink. These are not two different patterns. This is just the underside of the same table runner. So it's just like top and bottom of the same project, but they turned out beautifully. We had talked a lot about like trying to make those diamonds square, but they look beautiful as is. And so this is the thing, like, there was lots of rules about what overshot could be or should be, but I don't think that there's a lot of different ways that people are taking overshot into contemporary weaving and doing all sorts of different things with it. I think it's very much the idea of interspersing these supplementary weft picks into your cloth, and less so about following rules or anything like that. So I do love sort of the experimentation. And we have a sample as well with this table runner pattern where the diamonds are more elongated rather than square, and it makes for a much softer, drapier fabric. The drape on the fabric ends up being gorgeous. So this is really, really beautiful, and thank you so much for sharing that one. And we have another weaving project. This one is Lauren. Lauren was working on these summer and winter towels during our weaving meetings as well. And so this was woven with a mix of different 8-2 cottons. So this is Vene cotton, white and dark green in the Vene, and then Ashford was the red 8-2, and then Maurice Broussard was the avocado green in there. And so using a bunch of different 8-2 cottons from a bunch of different vendors, they seem to mix and blend just great together. But yes, she was saying that the fabric was a little bit loose, and so she might experiment with different EPI next time and things like that. But this is the first project off of her Fanny loom, new to her loom. And yes, I love seeing all the different versions of the bitmap towels. These ones turned out great and so like festive. So that is fantastic. And we talked before about how, like when you're doing summer and winter, you might want a thicker weft yarn as your pattern weft to cover over those little spots. The point of having the A2 cotton is so that you can sort of have more optical mixing and blending and seeing those different colors mix to make new colors. Lots and lots of things to experiment with that weave structure as well. We're just getting started. Now, what else can you make with your hand woven fabric? This one is Margaret Hanson wove this twill fabric on a 4-shaft loom, and then you can see the entire gallery of project of sort of like the process. But Margaret documented how she wove the fabric, and then she cotton sewed to make her daughter a skirt. And this is something that comes up very often, that people in the school are interested in taking their hand woven fabric and then sewing garments out of it. And so you might be curious and want to follow along with what Margaret is doing here. So you can check out, she has a blog post there and as well the gallery of photos. And we're going into knitting projects now. A couple of knitting projects that I wanted to share with you guys. This one is knit by Kathleen Stevenson, and I love it. I love the shape of it and the way that the whole shape, how the diagonal lines, all of these things that are moving around. Is it all short rows? Yes, it is an exercise in short rows, and the border is a knitted I-cord bind off. She's very enjoyable to knit. It's made with Cascade 220 Sport and then Noro Silk Garden Light. So if you think it's kind of like a lighter weight yarn, sport weight yarn, you could absolutely make this with your hand spun yarn. So if you're looking for sort of like a pattern or inspiration on what you might do with much of the hand spun yarn that you're spinning, combine it with a solid color yarn, and then make something like this. I think it's beautiful. The shape is great. And so this is designed by Carol Feller, and you can go look up that pattern, Tourmalite Shawl. This turned out beautifully. I do love the colors that you picked as well, Kathleen. It's really lovely. I think that this is maybe something to add to my Make 9. Something else to make this year. I have this on my Make 9 as well. This is knit by Leanne. This is actually spun and knit by Leanne. But this is the hand spun version of the Falling Leaves sweater. So Falling Leaves is a pattern. It's a straight up pattern with this beautiful leaf yoke that was designed by Andrea Rangel for a class that we did about designing color work sweaters. And so that came out this past fall as well, so you can look that up on the school. The pattern is available. You can just knit it straight up. In the original pattern, Andrea used BFL Silk DK, and she used a number of different colors to change colors in the yoke. But being spinners, as we are, as many of us are, you could also spin your own yarn for that yoke, for that color work yoke section. And so this is what Leanne's done. You can follow her gallery with the photos in here, but then she also has a number of posts where she talked about how she spun that yarn. And the yarn is beautiful. I think it's merino and silk from my memory. I think that's what it was. And she'd sort of spun these gradients. It's actually a complete gradient, those two skeins together. She just broke it up into two skeins. But yes, it's a super, super inspiring project. It's beautifully done. When we first saw Andrea's pattern for this Falling Leaves, Greta and I were talking about, oh, it would be so nice if you could do a hand-spun colorwork yoke. And it's amazing to see it actually being done. And so Leanne's made a beautiful version of that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's very, very inspiring to be able to make all this hand spun and then to do something with your hand spun. And it's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much for sharing that too. And then finally, this is the last project for me to share today. This is something I feel like has been like ongoing. You know, when they have these when you're watching a movie and there's like the main story and then there's like a side quest or there's a side story going on. And I feel like this side story by Nina has been going on for probably more than a year in the background. If you follow Nina's learning plan, this thread, Nina has been wanting to make this particular pattern for more than a year now, I think, if you go back through and look at the posts. And so she's finally dived in and is making this, or has made it, but making this particular pattern. This twill pattern is called Canadian Snowflake, and it's basically an adaptation that Laura Fry created. And so originally, I think there was like a snowflake twill pattern that was done on 8 shafts, and I believe Laura Fry rewrote it or figured it out how to redo it so that it could be done on a 4-shaft loom. And so Nina has tried to put this loom, put this weave structure onto her loom, and then she wove these samples at multiple different sets. Again, sampling, testing, which one feels best, which one's nicest, all that kind of stuff. And so she wove it at 24 ends per inch, which is the bottom one, 27 ends per inch, and then 30 ends per inch is this top one. So the 30 is like where everything is the densest. And so she says, I think that swatch 27 is the most balanced result. If you look at the dark X's in here, they look like they're balanced looking X's, but the fabric of 30 feels the best. I think she had mentioned that these 2 looser set ones maybe were a little bit tiny bit sleazy, like a little bit too loose for her liking. And so this one that was set at 30 was like beautiful, beautiful fabric. And then we have to show you she finished this scarf, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. So yes, it's quite epic. I feel like it was a bit of an epic project because she talked about it and had been inspired like more than a year ago, and then eventually worked its way into testing and sampling and trying different things, and then finally producing this beautiful, beautiful scarf. So congratulations on that. I feel like that was a real fantastic win. So that is basically all of the projects that I wanted to share with you guys today. There's a lot of things to share over the past 2 months. And I really, really appreciate you guys posting all of the things that you're working on, all of the things that you have learned in the process. You share notes about what you've been working on and help each other out. And so the whole community there, I feel like, is absolutely so wonderful and amazing. So if you've just joined the school and you're discovering the courses, that is fantastic. But if you go from the courses and then jump into the community section and then meet the other people who've been working through those courses and learning things, and then kind of like learning from each other. I think that that is the best part of what this school is. And so I encourage you guys to explore more of that if you have not already. So thank you guys so much for being here today, for sharing all of this time with me, and for going a little bit overtime today as well. We do try to keep these to about an hour, but today there was like lots and lots to talk about. So I hope that you guys have some plans about what you might want to make this year. You're more than welcome to share those with us in Discord or in the community forums. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys again next month at the end of February. We're going to do this again the last Thursday of the month. And hopefully by that time, maybe some of you guys will have seen the tartan class. Maybe you've jumped into that. Maybe some of you will be doing a little bit of a dive into the machine knitting world. Maybe you will join me over there as well. And looking forward to seeing all the things that we make in 2025. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you in the next one. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.